Here we are live again. Welcome back and thank you for joining me. Okay, today we're talking about the finance step in my Confident Business System. I want to show you how you can ensure that more of your hard-earned effort is making its way to your bottom line in terms of finance. Now, I think it's fair to say that most of you who are here live and most business owners didn't start their businesses to become an accountant. Neither did I. But after 18 years of working with business owners, I've noticed that most businesses don't fail because the owner isn't working hard enough. They're more likely to fail because the owner doesn't really understand the numbers that are driving their business success. And when you don't understand the numbers, you end up making decisions based on hope, based on assumptions, based on having your fingers crossed, based on gut feel. Now, you may have heard me say this before, but for me, gut in that case stands for gave up thinking. But unfortunately, that's how a lot of business decisions get made. So let me ask you something right now, and I do urge you to be honest with yourself here. If I asked you how much cash is sitting in your business right now, how much net profit did you make last month? What is your true profit break-even point? And how many months cash reserves do you have now? How confident would you feel to answering those questions, and would you be able to answer them accurately? Because here's the thing, numbers are the language of business. And if you can't speak the language, it's going to be very difficult for you to lead with any form of confidence. And one of the biggest mistakes I see, and I've seen it hundreds of times, is owners who become obsessed with turnover, revenue, sales, bigger numbers. And don't get me wrong, revenue matters, sales matter, growth matters. But revenue in and of itself doesn't create freedom. Profit and cash do. I've seen and worked with businesses that would turn over millions in revenue, but struggling to pay the bills. I've seen impressive revenue figures masking the cracks in businesses that are living month to month. And I've seen some much smaller businesses, well-run businesses with modest turnover that create excellent profits, strong reserves, and giving their owners a genuinely fantastic lifestyle. Because turnover is not the goal. The goal is financial control. The goal is profitability. The goal is cash. The goal is choice. And that's why the core message today is the purpose of your business is to make a profit. The purpose of your business is to make a profit. Now, before anyone misunderstands me, I'm not saying profit is more important than people or customers or culture. What I am saying is that profit funds all those things. Profit funds growth. Profit funds opportunity. Profit funds investment. Profit funds security. Profit funds innovation. Profit funds freedom. And without profit, the business eventually closes. And that means jobs are going to disappear. Customers are going to lose their support, and the mission and dreams of that business dies. So, let me ask you honestly, are you building a profit business or simply a busy one? A busyness? Because they're not the same thing. Now I want to talk to you about one of the most important financial numbers in your business, and one that most owners unfortunately don't know and don't track, and that is your break-even point. Every owner needs to know that number. Not roughly, not approximately, but precisely. What amount must be banked every day, every week, every month, every quarter, every year, simply to survive? How much revenue is required for you to make a single penny in profit? Because what's fascinating is that a lot of owners can tell you their annual turnover. Then few are going to know what their annual profit is, but only a small number will know precisely what needs to happen today to keep the lights on. And that's dangerous. It's really dangerous. But when you know your break even, you know your minimum target, you know your danger zone, you know your opportunity zone, you know when action is required. Also, when you know your break even, it'll help you stop making emotional decisions because you've got clarity. Now, while I'm on the subject of break even, I'm guessing, and I am guessing, that even fewer owners will know this number. But what is your profit break even? Not survival, profit. What's the number required to not just cover costs, but to deliver the profit that you've budgeted for? Because I've actually seen businesses celebrating that we covered costs, but that's not really success, is it? That's survival. And surely survival was never the goal. Let's move on and start with a question. On a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is world class, how good are your financial systems? Not your accountant's systems, your internal systems. How good are you at recording sales? How good are you at tracking costs, managing wages, monitoring banking? Because financial management really comes down to two activities: recording and reporting. So recording is capturing the data, and reporting is turning that data into decisions. So that really important distinction there. It's not turning that data into information. It's turning that data into decisions. The data is used to make decisions. And the truth is, many businesses don't have a money problem. They have an information problem. They don't know what's happening, where it's happening, or why it's happening, because they don't measure properly. And you can't improve what you don't measure. And what you find, if you want to look at some of the best businesses, is they don't assume, they don't make assumptions, they verify. Now, here's a really good idea for reducing stress levels. It's a simple system that I've been recommending to my clients for years because I recommend it because it works. And that is to have 3 bank accounts, at least 3. So account 1 is the operating account. Account 2 is a tax account. And account 3 is a profit account. So why 3? Because if profit sits around in the operating account, it's highly likely it's going to get spent. And if tax is left sitting in the operating account, that gets spent too. And then suddenly you find a VAT bill comes along or a tax bill comes along, but the money to pay them isn't there. But what having separate bank accounts does is this: it creates visibility, it creates discipline, it creates control, and most importantly, it forces intentionality. I recommend that tip. Now, let's move on and talk about something that sadly destroys far too many businesses: cash flow. Because here's something I'm quite surprised, actually, many business owners don't appear to realise. Sales are not cash, and profit's not cash. You can make a sale today. You can even show a profit in your accounts today, yet you can still run out of cash. So imagine today you were to invoice a customer £20,000. That revenue is going to show up in your accounts. That profit's going to appear in your accounts. But if that customer doesn't pay you for 30 days, you've got profit on paper, but no cash in the bank. And best businesses rarely fail because of a lack of accounting profit. They fail because they run out of cash. Which is why I say, actually, I want you to remember this one. You might want to write this one down, by the way. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, cash is reality, and freedom is the reward. One of the first things I get to work on with clients is creating a cash flow forecast. Put your teeth in, Kev. Because a cash flow forecast gives you visibility, control, confidence, and instead of you reacting to financial surprises, you're able to see potential issues days, weeks, even months in advance and take early action. So it allows you to make better decisions about things like growth, investment, recruitment, marketing, and pricing, because you understand the likely impact that's going to have on your cash before you commit to anything. Now I want to talk about one of the most dangerous habits in business. Really is a dangerous habit. Discounting, which as a business owner should be a bit like a cross to a vampire for you. Because what I've noticed is that whenever times get a little bit tough, the economy drops, recessions, things like that, to win more sales, many owners immediately think, I'll lower my prices. I'll discount the price to win the sale. But this is more than often than not a huge mistake. Because if you live by price, you will eventually die by price. Because what you're going to find is that you're going to attract price shoppers. You're going to get low loyalty customers, low margin work, and customers are going to leave you the moment somebody cheaper comes along. So as a suggestion, what you do instead of discounting is ask yourself, how can I add more value? Because value protects margin, value protects profitability, value protects your customer experience. So instead of offering a 10% off, say, you could include something additional. For instance, a bonus, additional support, extra service, a guarantee, an enhanced experience. Something that's got a high perceived value to the customer, but it's low cost to you. And when value rises, price becomes a lot less important. Now, while we're on the subject of pricing, when was the last time you actually reviewed your prices? I'm not about thinking about it, I've actually got out there and reviewed them. Because one of the easiest ways to improve your profitability is often to make a sensible price increase. But most owners, and I know this is definitely me back in the day, fear price increases. And we fear it more than the customers do. And the truth is that if you're actually delivering real value, most customers won't notice or don't mind. And a 5 to 10% increase can transform your overall profitability. Now, if you'd like to see exactly how pricing impacts your profit, I've got something special for you. It's called the MPC Profit Impact Map, and it's designed to show you how small changes in pricing can dramatically create improvements in your profitability. And if you want that, just drop the word profit into the comments or DM me and I'll get a copy over to you. Now, before I move away from pricing, when I ask people how did you actually decide to charge that price, I mostly get the answer is, well, we check the top and bottom prices in the market and we plonk ourselves somewhere in the middle. But here's the thing. What if your competitors are crap at pricing and you're using it to benchmark yours? How do your costs compare to your competitors? That's food for thought. Okay, let's move on to something that for me is sometimes a hugely emotional subject, and that's collecting money. Because collecting money faster improves everything. It improves liquidity, stability, growth, capacity, confidence. And here's the truth that most of us don't like to hear, actually. Most collection problems are not customer problems, they're system problems. So the system problems. Put your teeth in, Kev. Most businesses simply hope that their customers are going to pay and pay on time. But hope's not a strategy, is it? But what is a strategy is creating a system for collection. So, for instance, that could be a day 7 reminder, a day 14 reminder, a day 21 phone call, because consistency beats compensation. And when a collection system exists, I guarantee your cash flow is going to improve and your stress is going to reduce, and everyone knows what's going to happen next. Now, another area that many owners ignore entirely is costs. People tend to focus on increasing the top line revenue. It's important, it's really important, but profitability improves in both directions. Revenue going up, costs coming down. So when did you last audit your suppliers, utilities, software subscriptions, service contracts, insurance, telecoms? Because every pound saved drops straight down to your bottom line. Also, something that's really important, you may not have realised this, that every pound you spend had to be earned. Every pound you spend had to be earned. So that pound you spend, it's not worth a pound. Depending on your margins, that might represent sort of 3, 5 or 10 pounds of required sales effort. So make sure you're spending intentionally. Your spending requires thought and you reduce impulse buying decisions. And while we're on sales, something else that's really important is not all sales are equal. Some customers are highly profitable, some aren't. Some products or services have great margins, others don't. Some services or products are easy to deliver profitably, others leak cash at every single step. So ask yourself, which of my products or services generates the highest margin? Which customers create the highest lifetime value? Which services are easiest to deliver profitably? And then focus more of your attention on those. Because the goal isn't more sales, the goal is better sales. Now, let me share with you a mistake that I learned personally years ago, back in my days in the hospitality business. In my bars and restaurants, something I used to love seeing was the shelves full of stock. It looked impressive. The customers liked it. And for me, it felt a bit like success. But eventually I realised something really uncomfortable. Those shelves weren't full of stock. They were full of cash. And that cash was trapped. It was cash sitting still. It was cash that couldn't be used anywhere else. And on top of that, if I had slow-moving stock or inventory, that was quietly destroying my cash flow. Now, the older and wiser I became, the more I came to realise that inventory is cash wearing a disguise. Inventory is cash. Inventory or stock is cash wearing a disguise. Now, let's talk about budgets, because budgets work. They don't work because they're exciting. They don't work because they're perfect, but because they create visibility, discipline, and accountability. Now, when creating a budget, a mistake that I've seen a lot of owners make is they start the new budget by taking last year's turnover and adding the percentage. And that percentage tends to be 10%. Now, there's no rhyme or reason to that number apart from easy calculation. It's all finger in the air stuff. But when it comes to budgeting, I prefer to start somewhere entirely different. Instead of turnover, ask the question, what profit do you want to make? What cash reserves do you want to have? What lifestyle do you want the business to be giving you? Because that needs profit, and profit is what you and your family take home. And then once you know what that profit figure is, now you can reverse engineer the budget all the way up to sales and ask what sales are now needed, which also shows you what marketing now needs to produce. Remember, the business should support your life, not the other way around. So profit first. Another really powerful strategy worth considering is that many businesses only have one offer, one solution, one price point, one box for every customer. But your customers are different. Some want entry level, some want premium, some want speed, some want support, some want top quality, some want convenience. So create choices and don't force every customer into the same box, because when you have premium options, what you sometimes find is that some customers will take that premium option. And that means that your margin is going to improve without you having to sell more. And finally, for today's live, let's talk about systems. Because systems increase profit, systems reduce mistakes, systems reduce rework, and systems reduce inconsistency. Now, many businesses think they've got a sales problem, when actually what they really have is an efficiency problem. They're leaking profit through operational weaknesses, and they try to fill that leak with more revenue, which is why chasing more sales, before we start chasing more sales, we need to ask ourselves what holes need plugging first, because pouring more sales into a leaking business won't necessarily create more profit, but it will definitely create more chaos. So plug the holes before you try to grow your business. Okay, let me ask you, if you were to improve your pricing, your cash collection, your margins, your inventory, your cost control, your systems, and your financial reporting, would your business feel a little bit different 12 months from now? I'm pretty sure it would. That's why I understand the numbers matters. Not because the numbers are exciting, but because numbers create choices, and choices create freedom. So, here's your momentum move for today. Score yourself out of 10 in each of these areas, where 10 is knocking out the park, and 1 equals don't ask. Pricing, profitability, cash flow, financial reporting, cost control, cash reserves, and collection systems. And then once you've got your scores, identify your lowest score and ask what's one action I can take today to improve that score. Because improvement starts with awareness, and awareness creates momentum. Also remember, if you'd like a copy of the MPC Profit Impact Map and its budget, so I don't know why you wouldn't, just drop the word profit into the comments or DM me and I'll get it over to you. If you'd like a copy of my latest ebook, 44 Lessons Learned from 44 Years in Business, drop lessons into the comments or DM me. Or thinking on my feet here, if you'd like both of them, just drop the word both into the comments or DM me and I'll get it over to you. And if you'd like help identifying why profit, cash, or opportunities escaping from your business, follow the link in the comments and let's arrange a proper conversation where together we'll identify where you are now, where you want to go, and what needs to happen for you to build a more profitable, cash-rich business that gives you more control, more confidence, and more choice. Because ultimately, that's the goal. The goal is not to build a busy business, a busyness. The goal is to build a profitable, cash-rich business that gives you lots and lots of choices. And remember, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, cash is reality, and freedom is the reward. Now, my next live is going to be the same time, same place next Tuesday, which I think is the 16th of June. And we'll be moving into the delivery step of my Confident Business System, because most business owners think growth comes from getting more customers. I'm not convinced that it does. I think growth comes from keeping the customers you've already worked so hard to win. Because if customers don't come back, if they don't refer others, if the experience they're getting isn't consistent for them, you're constantly having to start again. So we'll be looking at why systems matter, why the customer experience matters, why complaints are often gold dust for you, and how small delivery problems become much bigger profit problems as your business grows. Because growth doesn't just expose weaknesses, it magnifies them. So if you've ever wondered why some businesses seem to create customers for life while others constantly have to chase new business, then you won't want to miss this one. And in the meantime, make sure you have a cracking weekend and create some real momentum. Thank you for watching.